And I think if you go in with your non-negotiables, it forces you to come to solutions.
Well, that's the tricky bit to get the balance on, isn't it? And I think I see some businesses go too far in both of the direction.
Yeah, so you can definitely optimize too much for the customer.
Yeah.
You know, the most blatant example is not charging enough.
We only exist as businesses, surely, to solve someone else's problem, solve for a customer somehow.
Ultimately, what it comes down to is alignment, like getting the team aligned, getting clear on what the objectives and the goals are.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Come back to Shrewsbury.
Yep, back here again. Thank you for having me.
A little while ago, you came all the way over here.
Back in this lovely room.
Back in our lovely room, yeah. Exactly, our converted studio. So, what's anything changed in your world?
No, still chugging along, following the goals, doing what I enjoy.
Supporting all these businesses.
That's it, yeah.
Their ops.
Yep.
Good. So, what's in the news?
Well, I've noticed that when you and Rich do your episodes, you have a nice little intro at the beginning, and sometimes it's around business. So I've actually cheated.
Done your research.
Oh, when I cheated and I used a bit of AI, I was like, give me something interesting that I could share with Dave for the beginning part of the show. So I've got a question for you.
Oh goodness, is it a quiz?
Well, it's a general knowledge
I'm
question.
Rubbish at pub quizzes.
If you know this, I don't know if I'm going to be happy or disappointed. Well, I'll be disappointed because I can't drop the stat, but I'll be very impressed that you know it.
Go on then.
There's the biggest sales event worldwide in the year earns more or generates more revenue than Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. Do you know what it is?
Boxing Day sales.
Nope. It's coming in November.
Coming in November. Thanksgiving. Well, that's the Black Friday, isn't it? The day after Thanksgiving, so it wouldn't be that.
Nope.
So what would it be that triggers it? Worldwide as well.
Yeah.
So it can't be religious related or...
Well, when I say worldwide, I mean it is in one specific country, but what I mean is it's not the UK.
And it's not Thanksgiving related and all that stuff. So
I'll give you a clue. It's not America either.
Oh, that would have been my next go-to. No. Yeah. So it's China.
Yep.
So what happens in there in China? It's not Chinese New Year. That's January.
No.
No, I'm going to have to pass.
It's Singles Day.
No, Singles Day.
And it generates last year 1.44 trillion yuan.
Yeah.
Yuan, am I saying that right? Yuan.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Actually.
Which is an insane amount of money. It's more than I can comprehend.
Yeah.
Somebody can do the maths. There were over 35 million new products sold and more than 60 million hours of shopping during the event.
On Singles Day. So what happens on Singles Day?
And I thought, what does that mean? Does it mean single items?
Yeah.
And it means shopping for single people.
Yeah.
So if you're single, apparently it was started as a kind of like anti-Valentine's Day thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but now...
Has it turned into a dating thing?
Well, I don't know. I don't...
go to shop where, everybody in the shop is single. Is that the way they do it? That's what you mean by Singles Day, right?
That's what they mean, yeah, single. So it's shopping for singles.
So that's clearly not online then? I mean, it doesn't matter, does it, if you're shopping online as part of a married couple or a single?
I think it's in person. When I was reading the story, there was the pictures and the videos were people in shops.
So Singles Day. Well, you've got me on that one, Mike. I would not have guessed that.
And there's an interesting
Singles Day. So
knowledge bomb. I don't know how to make it funny. You and Rich are very good at making it funny, and I thought I don't really know how to do that.
We need Rich for that. he's the comedian.
You two can pick it up on another episode.
Yeah, exactly. We'll pick it up next week.
How do we make it funny?
Remember when he said that? Well, the question is, how do you then adopt that? What gem of that could you take and apply in your own business?
Yeah. How are you selling to singles?
Yeah, certainly have something for the Chinese market on whatever Singles Day falls on in November.
Yeah.
Good. Well, on that note, I think we should do a podcast.
Yep. Sounds good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow Limited, where every week we try and come up with something useful, interesting, or as you've just heard, maybe a little bit off the wall, that might be of interest to owners and managers of small and medium-sized enterprises. And we're very lucky again. We have a guest that's been on the show before, and he's come all the way back again. We didn't put you off.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike Jones.
Hello, Dave. Thanks for having me back.
Not at all.
Happy to be back in Shrewsbury.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely part of the world.
It is. We like it here. Yeah, I must come down to Droitwich and enjoy the pubs and.
We've got a canal.
A canal.
Yeah.
We've got more than a canal.
We have got the River Salwart, but it's not like the River Severn.
Well, it does flood a little bit here, so it's not always a good thing.
No.
So tell us a little bit about your business then, because that's going to relate quite a lot to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, sure. So I have a business called The Fractional Integrators, and essentially what we do is act as a fractional COO for small and medium businesses, typically 10 to 30 employees, some bigger, some smaller. And what we do is we help the businesses run their operations effectively and enjoy it. There's a big mindset piece as well. So we make the business a win-win. So it's actually enjoyable for the team, for the owner, for the customer.
Well, we talked a bit about that last time you came on the show, the enjoyability bit.
Yeah.
And not just that it's allowed to, you're running a business that you enjoy running, but actually that it's almost required, or you should be. And we had a good chat about that. So if you want to cast back to episode 145 in the list, you'll go back to when Mike was on here before. So yes, we wanted to talk today about this operations bit. And it particularly chimes with a lot of the work we do, because we focus very much with the whole 6-box model thing and everything else that our listeners have heard us talk about around what happens up to the point where you win a new deal. So it's all about that marketing, lead gen, front end bit, and the sales. You get to the point where you win a deal, you got maybe a new customer or a repeat purchase, and the sales and marketing people go back to getting the next one, and they hand over, often a little bit too siloed for some people's liking, and throw it over the wall, whatever, and they leave the operations people to pick it up. And that's where you come in, because especially in lots of small businesses, they haven't quite got their head around how to organise that well. And in particular, what we thought as a spin on it for today, is rather than focusing on the steady state, which is tricky enough, what does it feel like in growing businesses? Because it often pops out in all the wrong ways, and you get sort of stresses and strains and stuff that doesn't quite work so well. So that's what we thought we'd talk about today.
Yeah, and I think the key word was conflict, wasn't it? And that kind of contrast with comfort. And that's the whole challenge around when we're a growing business. We're getting more business than what we used to, and we're getting bigger. How does that create conflict within the team? And
it's counterintuitive, surely. As a business owner, I mean, we're getting bigger. That's great. Why would there be conflict? But I absolutely know there is, from personal experience and from that of my clients. So why is that?
Well, it comes back to, ultimately, what I love doing is getting people aligned. I want any business to be a win-win. I've been in the military, I've been a business owner, I've been in small businesses, big businesses, as an employee, and I've always found it interesting that often is the case that the way the business is running isn't getting people motivated, isn't getting the most out of people, and people do want to do good work. I don't like the kind of message that people say you can't get the staff these days, and people are hardwired to want to contribute and to do good work and to feel good about themselves by doing so. So I find it interesting when businesses aren't structured to tap into that. So one of the things that we kind of touched on last episode and that the question you've just asked there, I think kind of brings us back to is what's the motivation of the owner and the mindset of the owner, and how does that contrast with the team, and how can that create issues? And generally speaking, owners are driven by growth and the overall performance of the business. And the team might be, depending on what department they're in, have different motivations. For example, people in operations tend to like to keep things neat and ordered. So when you try and change that, because you're bringing more into it, their instant response might be stress. You're changing this thing, which brings with it risk, and we might create issues or have errors with our clients. So their actual initial response might be to resist and to push back. And then you've got an owner or a marketing and sales team, they're excited because you've got new clients coming in. Then you've got an operations team who seem to be not excited, and then we're annoyed because they're not excited, and then they're annoyed because they are excited, and then you've got we're all here for the same thing, so why are we
I'm shifting uncomfortably in my seat, because this is all a little bit too close to home. Exactly. I've been there myself. You work a long time to win a new client, you land it, and it's all a great celebration in your head, and the first reaction from some of the rest of the team is, hang on a minute, we haven't got the resource to do that, or maybe you see this a lot of clients as well, where the sales guys will have adapted the offering to meet what a perceived customer need is. They've bespoke to your standard solution, and suddenly downstream they've got to redo designs, change the tooling, whatever they've got to do. Just because, to get your deal over the line, you've agreed to something that isn't normal for us. And they throw their hands up, oh my goodness, sales have sold something we can't make again, or whatever. Been there enough times.
Yeah. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is alignment, like getting the team aligned, getting clear on what the objectives and the goals are. And getting comfortable with the fact that people think differently. Like your operations team generally, and this is a massive generalization, will think differently to your sales and marketing team. And that's okay. But we've got to figure that out and navigate it, not just assume that they think like us and then be frustrated when they don't. So I think that's a really important piece.
Well, that's a good thing. We do the insights profile. People do colour wheel type stuff, or you might do Myers-Briggs and stuff. I think they're all useful in at least ramming home that exact point that we are all wired differently. We're unique. We're the best at being us and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we do fit into these sort of pots, don't we, of types, whether it be the
I think so.
Myers-Briggs 16 types or whatever one you want. And it is true, not universally a generalization, but true that certain roles attract different behavior types. Mm-hmm. And logistics people will be of a certain type. HR people tend to be of a certain type. Certainly sales and marketing do, and certainly operationally focused people tend to be. And you mentioned being a bit ordered and system thinkers.
Yeah,
and I think that's why we're odd in Wellmeadow, because we're all odd, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we come from. I'm a ex-factory manager, right? So I'm definitely in the operations side in the camp where you work now.
Yeah,
I don't work there anymore, but having come from that whole Six Sigma steeped Kaizen thinking and all of that, managed by fact type stuff, and bringing that into the front end of the business and realizing that that's not how people think around here. This is weird. Why don't you just measure stuff and have a system to do that? And I guess that's where we're carving out our niche at the moment. But there's still, even though we've made that jump and we should know better, we still sometimes forget the fact that different people are seeing the world from a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that when you come into your office and you look at your stuff, it's very processed, which I love. I'm like, okay, because it helps you make sense of something that is a complicated topic, but then what we can forget, like you said, is the system of people, the process of people, and how do we create alignment around there. The process that you want for your sales probably isn't going to be worlds apart from the process you want to get your people aligned. And I think the mistake is just assuming that everyone's just going to get on with it and be happy and be motivated to do so. We've got to put some work in to kind of align people and navigate people's different ways of thinking in a way, because if you, like what you said is right, like we're all different and we all fit into like these broad boxes of personality type, but at a deeper level than that, we're all very similar. We all want to do good work, we all want to have a happy life, we all want to feel like we're making a difference and feel valued. So what we've got to do is kind of like tap into that lower stuff, navigate through the middle stuff to get to the alignment stuff.
So how do you do that then? That sounds really tricky. You're pushing water uphill to some degree there. We almost relish more in our differences than our similarities, which is odd given that we're 99.99% the same DNA-wise.
I think there's 4 I's for getting people motivated and keeping them aligned. And the first one is incentivize. So we're all incentivizing our employees by paying them. Some people are more driven by that than others, so they might be on a commission structure. Some people aren't that bothered about it, so putting them on a commission structure doesn't really matter. But at a basic level, everyone's getting incentivized. We can involve people, and this is one that a lot of businesses miss. So getting your team involved in the planning process, getting your team involved in the strategy. And obviously, if you're a SME, I think this is easier to do than if you're a big corporate, because you've got layers of messaging to fall around and to cascade and to push up. But let's involve people, because people love being involved in the change. We can give people independence, so give them a bit of agency and trust to just go and do it in their own way. And we can inspire people through the big picture vision and the strategy of the company. So when I look at a team and if there's stuff going wrong, I'm like, well, are they clear on what the strategy of the company is, or are they just being told to do this job? If they're just being told to do this job, you end up feeling like a cog in the system. Whereas if they know what the vision, and you guys are very good at this, I've seen on your site, like what the vision and the mission is of the company, then everyone can put some meaning behind their role and know how it's implementing that bigger picture. So that's the inspire piece. Are you paying them? Yes, obviously. They're turning up to work. Would they like to be incentivized more? Often the answer is no. I'm not saying people shouldn't have pay rises and all this stuff, but often people aren't as highly motivated by big bonuses and commissions as we might think. And then I think the key thing that a lot of small and medium businesses miss is that involved piece. Like, just give your people a chance to have a say on the strategy. Even if and this isn't a case that you have to let them completely change it, but just letting people be heard and share their frustrations, like the operations team, letting them share their frustrations about bringing in new clients, that will just make them feel better straight away. And then we can alleviate that, and then we're all moving forwards in the same direction. Whereas if we're just dropping it on them without maybe getting them involved, they might feel a bit like, oh, it's us versus them.
Yeah, no,
let's moan.
I guess it's, putting a name on it and allowing it to be spoken about, giving it some permission to take some of our conversation time. I get that. But I still worry that when you when you get to that point, which is definitely a healthy place to get to, where you're airing different perspectives in the room and you're seeing and understanding maybe for the first time as someone from the sales side that this isn't welcomed when you get to the operations side or vice versa, that still doesn't necessarily mean there's a solution in that. All we've done there is to help understand the differences. But just because I understand that you don't like it when I've sold something we've never sold before and we're going to just have to work it out, or operations say I've got a minimum batch quantity of 1,000, but I only want to sell 10, that stating the fact doesn't solve the problem. It just helps you to understand why you're upset, but you're still upset.
Yeah. I do think them just stating it does alleviate how frustrated they might feel, just being able to be heard. Yeah. When I think of a business, I think through the core four. So the owner or the leadership team, the business, the account, basically, sales and profit and cash, the customer and the team. So you've got these four things. And when they're all winning, the business is good. Yeah. And when one of them feels majorly off, or two of them, or three of them, we start to have issues. So when you're having those conversations with a team and they've got frustrations, we always want to bring that back to, well, what needs to be true for the business? Like if we need to make this many sales for this business to be healthy and for everyone to get paid and for us to have profit, well, it's not really up for debate. We've got to do it. Yeah. If you've got frustrations with how we're doing it, then we can have that conversation. But this is a non-negotiable. And I think if you go in with your non-negotiables, it forces you to come to solutions. If you go in there being too democratic and too nice, you can have lots of frustration shared and no solutions come to. That's why you want your plan, isn't it? It's like, well,
that's the tricky bit to get the balance on, isn't it? And I think I see some businesses go too far in both of the directions. Yeah. They're either trying to be too collaborative and democratic and take everybody's view to the point of saying, well, let's not solve for the customer then, because that causes us some grief. Well, hang on a minute. What are we actually fundamentally here for? Ultimately, provide some employment for sure, and maybe enjoy running the business like you talked about. Maybe. But we only exist as businesses, surely, to solve someone else's problem, solve for a customer somehow, add some value somewhere else that they're prepared to pay us some money for that we can choose to pay ourselves. So you're right, there's a non-negotiable bit there. But if you're too democratic, you say, you're right, let's put those minimum batch quantities up to 2,000 because that will mean fewer changeovers on the shop floor. Or let's cut off all that bespoking and limit how much the sales guys can adapt what we sell because that makes it. Well, that's not solving for the customer. Yeah. And yet if you go too far the other way, whatever the customer says they're going to have, well, you've got chaos. Everything goes wrong then. You've got no standard costing anymore. Your routings have gone out the window. Your bill of materials are never right.
I'd say that ties in with your profit cash, that top right box. So what's the win-win? I love the thinking win-win. What's the win-win solution here? So you can definitely optimize too much for the customer. Yeah. The most blatant example is not charging enough. It's let's charge less because that's better for our customers. You're like, well, it's not if we can't make any money. Sure. And then what happens is we don't have a business. So then it becomes a short-term win for the customer, but a long-term lose for everybody because the business can't be around. So, I mean, a lot of small businesses, and I went through this lesson when I owned a gym, are trying to be a win for the customer by being cheap. But actually, you've got this contrast. So like the gym I had, I wanted to be really high quality. We were really high quality. We had really high quality coaches. It was their full-time jobs, loads of great equipment, full-time coach schedule. We had a very unique way of helping people get fit. And we were trying to be cheap as well. And that was a confidence issue for me. And the two couldn't work together. You couldn't have the high quality, the full-time coaches and being cheap. No, you can, but you have to ram loads of members in and then you lose your quality of service. Yeah, so you what's the win-win? And the win-win is we just got to charge more and get confident selling. And then we can service the right amount of clients and get them the result. So I think it's always zooming out to those four and being like, okay, well, why do we need to cut costs why do we need to do that to make more profit? Okay, well, is the win-win solution to lower our quality by cutting corners or is it to up our prices or is it to get more customers? Yeah. So it's trying to find the win-win.
No, well, I mean, it's laudable. Why wouldn't you? I mean, absolutely. It's a truism, isn't it? As much as else, mother and apple pie. Let's find the win-win. It's a question of how you get people in the right space to not only recognise that while you're talking to them in the room. Let's say we're having an all hands in a meeting room. We have this sort of conversation. It's a company meeting or whatever, and everyone leaves it thinking, you're absolutely right. We've got to get the right balance here. We've got to charge the right prices, sell the right products. We've got to satisfy the market need, but at the same time, we've got to look after the people and do all these things. And then I don't know how long it takes, but the morning after, they say after training sessions, you've forgotten 90% of what you've learned anyway. But let's say it lasts a bit longer, but certainly a week later, a month later, beyond that, you start to get the team membership composition has changed. It fades quite fast, doesn't it, in terms of that in the moment. Yeah, okay, we're all friends. We know what we're trying to do. Crack on. And then very quickly it's back to, but you've gone and sold that thing that we don't make again, or that price is too high now, I can't sell any more of them, or whatever it is.
I think the 90-day piece is really important. There's some science around this that humans can stay focused on a goal for around 90 days and then we start to lose track of it. So I think having those 90-day targets, maybe if you're a fast growth startup, you do it every 30. But if you've got a bit of history behind you and some proof of concept, I think the 90 days works really well. And then it's having your weekly, some kind of weekly cadence to make what you're trying to do visual and to keep you accountable to it. So you've got that check-in. But if it goes wrong, that's okay, isn't it? Because then you use your next 90 day to go, we said we were going to do this. Yeah. We've started doing this. Why is that? Is that because we calculated something wrong, or are we just being ill-disciplined and moving away from what we need to move to? So I think it's a cadence of keeping people aligned.
I like that idea, certainly around that 90 days or shorter if you can. It's reminding people and keeping it front of mind. But there's something in here which I'm still sort of grappling with, which is how do we help everybody in the organization at once realize that there are trade-offs here? And that it's a bit like in the gym example, I've been fascinated to hear more about this technique for keeping people fit. I'll sign up to that tomorrow. I got my high rocks training in full swing at the moment, so I'll bore you about
that'll get you fit.
They say it's like a game of squash. You don't play it to get fit, you play it when you're fit, and I think high rocks might fit the same thing. Anyway,
don't go into high rocks thinking it's going to be like a game of squash, though.
It's certainly not. No, it's not a walk in the park. But that whole, let's say you're trying to lose weight, that conflict of I really want a pizza, but I also want to get my weight down. You've got to be able to hold in your head at the same time these two conflicting thoughts. That I may want this thing, but I need this thing. You mentioned that in our last podcast. I remember it sort of stuck in my mind. And we need somehow to get a culture in the organization, which clearly comes from the top, that as we grow, we are going to have conflict. There are going to be things that we're all going to have to do which are suboptimal. We can't run this for the benefit of one department alone. Yeah. And therefore, to run it for everybody's benefit and for the company's benefit and for the customer's benefit, we're all going to have to cope with some form of compromise here.
Yeah. And it's going against human psychology. So nobody wakes up and thinks, I can't wait to have some conflict today. Can't wait to have a difficult conversation with team member A or team member B. I can't wait to call person C out for not doing what I need them to do. Like, we all want to avoid conflict on a standard level and to be comfortable. So I mean, when I look at businesses, what I notice is there's 3 zones you can be in, I think, culturally. And most businesses bounce in this kind of horrible loop between zone 1 and zone 2. So zone 1, I would say, is being comfortably uncomfortable. It's that the business isn't really doing what it needs to do. It's not exciting. It's not driving towards its purpose, but it's kind of paying the bills. We're getting by. It's putting food on people's tables. So you've got this kind of comfortably uncomfortable zone where it's not uncomfortable enough that we need to change. And then you bounce into zone 2, which is stressful growth. And that's normally reactive. So it's like, minimum wage is we need to figure out how to make some more money. And everybody gets into action to stop the boat from sinking. Or we've got a massive VAT bill to pay. We haven't figured it out, whatever it might be. I'm just thinking of common examples there. So then we go into this state of reactive, stressful growth, driven by urgency. And then once, obviously, we've stopped the ship from sinking, we bounce back to comfortably uncomfortable. And that's not because people are bad. It's not because we've got poor leadership. It's often because business owners, leaders and managers aren't comfortable with conflict and they're trying to keep everyone happy. So you get kind of unintentionally bullied into that zone. And I think the ideal zone is what I call zone 3, which is comfortable growth or enjoyable growth. Comfortable is probably the wrong word. And that's where we make growth a standard in our culture, and we have systems in place like a weekly meeting with trackers that hold us accountable to what we said we were going to do, and we get comfortable as a team having the conversations to keep ourselves accountable. And I think it has to come from your 90-day planning and your weekly cadence. But it's like your high rocks. You set the goal. Okay, we all have like our daily routine, and it's effort to change that. So you've set your goal of want to do a high rocks, and now you know that so that's keeping you driven straight away because you've got an end goal that you need to get towards. But now you'll have some kind, and I know you will because of how your brain works, you're going to have some kind of cadence in your head where you're like, I've got to do this many times a week. Yeah, sure. And you'll hold yourself accountable. But when you're in a team, you need to keep reminding them, look, we're doing a high rocks. This is the plan we said we were going to do. Are we on track or are we off track? If we're off track, why? Let's have some difficult conversations. If we're on track, great. Let's keep it going.
So to move between I'm interested in the comfortable and uncomfortable bit, because you're saying that's where it's enough to put the food on the table and pay everybody wages, but it's not really going anywhere. I think the uncomfortable bit there comes from just the lack of growth. Is that what you're saying?
Comfortably uncomfortable. It's like you're not growing, you're not moving towards your vision and your purpose. It's it's not what you want it to be. It's not particularly exciting, high energy atmosphere.
But it's comfortable.
But it's all right.
And there's some attraction in comfortable. I guess that's where you get these lifestyle businesses that they tick over month in, month out. They pay the wages, they pay the mortgage. The wolf's from the door. You're not doubling in size. You're not taking on new markets. It's just you're doing the business. And there must be loads of businesses around. The local car garage or hairdressers. It's just flatlining, but it's okay.
Well, if you're flatlining, you're not going to be okay for long, are you? Because there's always rising costs. So I know what you mean, though. I think if you're a lifestyle business, but you're clear on that you want to be a lifestyle business and you're hitting what you need to hit and everyone's happy with that, that's fine. The problem is when the owner and the leadership team want it to be bigger and better and they've got targets, but it's not on the way to being there because there's all this issue with the team and getting the culture right.
Yeah. So you're saying then the next step you drop into then, and I take that point that if your vision is to be that size forever, then fair enough. Fine. But assuming you're not and you're trying to grow, the first step you inevitably go into is the uncomfortable growth bit. You can't imagine just going from comfortable, uncomfortable straight to comfortable growth.
And I think comfortable growth was the wrong term. It's enjoyable growth, because it's not comfortable, is it? It's like going to the gym isn't comfortable.
No, well, I think that was my point about the pizzas in the gym. You've got to be able to cope with a certain degree of discomfort.
Yeah, and it's getting that peace in your mind with being in that zone. Being in that zone where it's like, okay, we're trying new stuff, we're pushing ourselves, we're doing new disciplines that we didn't know before. It's doing that in the aim of a defined goal. And you have to get your team, I think, if you've got a goal and you're not there now, you've got to figure out how to get your team aligned to that without feeling like you're being a bad person or making them stressed.
Yeah. Or maybe is it true that you've got to start to get your head around enjoying maybe it's not the conflict or it's the discomfort, but there's that, when I come back from the gym, did you enjoy the gym? No, I hated it, but I enjoy having done it. When I'm pushing 120 kilos along on that flipping sled on whatever it is, the weight, I'm not enjoying that. Absolutely not. I'd rather be anywhere else in that moment.
Yeah.
But I can't, once you've started, you can't stop. But when I get home and I'm feeling all righteous for having got up early in the morning and done that before I come to work, and I'm achieving my goal, then let's do it. So in the business sense, is it the fact that we have to somehow, and I don't know if different departments get this at different times, but as it gets difficult, maybe it's not comfortable, but it's that challenging part of the growth period, that we say, well, this is what it feels like. And that's okay because we're getting somewhere. We're putting some effort in and it's going to be a bit of conflict. We're going to have some tension where we've run out of bits in stores or we haven't got enough cash to invest in the whatever. All the things that go wrong when you're growing. We haven't got enough people now. We've just grown enough that we've exceeded the capacity in engineering or design or accounts. We need another one. Until we get them, we're all out of shape. But it's okay. We just say that this is the consequence. These are growing pains.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I don't know if I don't even know if enjoyable is the right word. The last episode we did together, we talked about problems replace problems. So if you want to be happy in business, you've just got to accept and embrace that there's always problems. And if you're stressed about that, you're always going to be unhappy. And it's the same with growth, isn't it? It's the same with having a growth-driven culture. It's like the very nature of growth is its effort. It's effort, and we're trying to do stuff we don't already know, and we're trying to build new disciplines, and we're talking to customers and prospects, and they might be difficult, and we're trying to do new stuff and sell new products, whatever it might be. And the very nature of that is it's outside of our zone of comfort. But what we want to do is create an environment where that's the norm. And that's not, yes, I don't want to say it's not stressful because it is, but it's not detrimentally stressful. I think there's a healthy amount of stress, and we need to create cultures in our businesses where that's what we're working towards, a healthy amount of stress. We're making ourselves uncomfortable. We're setting targets and some of them we're missing, and that's okay because that's what we need to do to get to the business that we want. So the alternative is avoiding all of that because we think it's bad. And I think that always leads to a place.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it? I quite like the idea that it's almost like an out-of-body experience, that if you weren't too careful about it, you would get sucked into the fact that this is now a stressful situation. We have set ourselves up to do things that are hard, and we haven't got everything in place to fix that straight away, so we're going to live through a period of hard. If you come to work focusing on that, you're going to go home again stressed and I've had a terrible day at work. If you could somehow compartmentalize it and say, well, that's what it's always going to feel like while we're growing, but that's part of the job. I'm just going to work and I'm not going to let myself get dragged into that and let my psyche get dampened down because of it all. That's just, we'll do our best we can. Like you say, we may not succeed at everything, but on the bigger goals we are succeeding. We're getting somewhere, and on the way it's we're foregoing the pizza, we're doing the extra gym session, whatever it is. But it's okay. We can get back at home and say, well, we pushed the world forward a bit more today. It was hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can now feel good having been to the gym, that equivalent. I can feel good having had a hard day at work. When I'm in the moment, oh yeah, it was great. I'd rather not, and I'd rather have a bit of time off from that stress. But actually, it's okay at the end of it. It's been worth it.
Yeah, 100%. It's overcoming that subconscious programming, isn't it? That we for most of our existence on this planet, we were hunter-gatherers, and we've developed these traits to try and keep us alive in a dangerous environment. And many of those traits that try to guide us on autopilot at a subconscious level are unhelpful when it comes to reaching goals, creating a high-performance environment, moving towards our vision. So we've got to recognise that there's this part of our psyche, this big part of our psyche that wants to keep us comfortable and avoid the unnecessary and avoid risk. And it does that by making us feel stressed about the risk. So we've got to be aware of that piece of our brain, or piece of our mind, and then, exactly as you've just said, lean into the unknown without getting so stressed about that we feel bad. I have this thing, because I used to live with monks. I used to live in monasteries in Thailand and Nepal after the military.
Every time, how do you drop these things in? Forgot to mention that. Yeah.
So, but that's that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. But that, coming from being in the military, working with special forces, is probably one of the most high kind of drive environments you can imagine, high performance environments, to living with monks. And monks are very much about, and Buddhism is very much about, accepting your life as it is and being peaceful in the now. The only thing we ever have is the present moment. So you can see a conflict there. You can be like, well, why would I set goals and drive forwards if actually all I really need is the now? And I think that's what a lot of people have beef with Buddhism, because they're like, well, does it make you complacent and lazy? And the kind of philosophy that I've come to from being in both worlds is you need a bit of both. So you've got to set the goals that are genuinely aligned to what you want. So don't set goals that you need to set to try and impress other people. Like, follow your passion. Like, you guys are clearly very passionate about what you do here. You've been doing it for a long time. You're consistent. You get good results. So keep following that vision and set big goals around it. But then tap into your Buddhist part of your mind, or your at peace spiritual part of your mind, and almost disassociate yourself emotionally from whether you hit those goals or not. So keep working towards them, but be at peace with it. It doesn't really matter if you hit them or not, ultimately. And I think if you can do those two things really well, you're like, and you might want to think about how you position this with your team, because that might not be the best language, but this is the vision, this is what I'm going after, this is my purpose, this is what makes me feel good, and we want to tap into that in a team as well. And then these are the goals that we're going to pursue to get there. But if we don't get them, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You need to be careful of that, because it could lead to complacency.
That's a hell of a balance to strike, but I totally get it. If you can do that.
I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I'm always setting goals that make me uncomfortable. And the thing that you just said there, like, struck a chord with me, because you set this goal and you're all excited for it, and then you sit in front of your computer on your Monday and you look at your targets and you're like, I don't know how to do that. And then you're like, your initial response is, I'm just not going to bother because I might fail. That's the fear. Yeah. I might fail, I might not hit it. So it feels more comfortable to just go and do what I already know. But I've actually got to a point, I think, where I'm quite consistently can just go, I'm just going to do the stuff I think is going to get me there, and be consistent and enjoy the process.
So you've been on a journey to get to this point where you can hold these two views, both the sort of the Buddhist-like view of living in the now and first world problem stuff, this isn't going to kill me, it's okay. And the other one, which is, I do want to achieve this goal and I'm prepared to put up with a certain amount of discomfort. That isn't present in everybody innately. That's actually quite a difficult trick to pull off, and it's great when you can get people there. I can only imagine that as organizations get larger in size, with more people, more employees, that you've got an ever bigger job to try and get people into that sort of space, so that we can all both be happy with the conflict to a manageable level and the problems with growing, at the same time as being able to go home and say, but that's another good day's work, and I'm going home to see the kids or for a run or whatever.
It's a combination of systems and coaching. Mindset work. So you want the systems that I think you need in any business, and you guys will, you can explain this with sales. Like I would imagine one of the first things you do whenever you're working with a client on, well, I'll ask you, what's one of the first things you do if somebody says to you, right, we want to get better at sales and marketing, we want to come and work with you, Dave and team. Like, what's one of the first things you do with them, out of interest?
Well, that's a good question, actually. Is there a common answer to that question? Because you'd like to think you're going straight into diagnosis mode, aren't you? It's like, well, have you got this, and have you got your problems here, there, and everywhere? But it might be something else. It might be just, what are you trying to get to? What's the point of this? When you say you're not achieving, what are you not achieving?
And I think that piece there about like what you're trying to get to, because that's the essential part first, isn't it? It's like, okay, there's loads of things you could fix. It's never ending. You could always optimize your sales. You could always optimize your marketing. We could do it for the next year and still have more stuff to do. But what you're actually trying to achieve. So I think you need a system in your business, in any business, that gets everybody clear on what are we trying to achieve. And then it translates that down into, well, how do we know if we're achieving what's measurable over the next 90 days? So I'd imagine with sales and marketing, we go, okay, we're going to fix these things. And the outcome of that is we want to see X amount of leads, X amount of calls booked, or however it works, and X amount of them converting into sales. So you've got specifics. And then what we need as humans in teams is something to hold us accountable to those things. Otherwise, we'll start to drift towards comfort. And we don't want to rely on humans to hold us, including ourselves. Like, I don't hold myself accountable to my goals. I use a system. So I'll take my goals and translate them into a weekly tracker. Because if I rely on me,
that's very disciplined. Not everybody can do that, right?
Well, yeah, but I think in a team, as soon as you've got multiple people, you just need to get something like that in place. You just need, whether it's a Google spreadsheet.
It's the peer group.
What, sorry?
It's the peer group that holds you to account, then, is it? You're holding yourself collectively to get to account.
Well, yeah, you've got it's the discipline around looking at the numbers every week. And then the peer group naturally creates accountability, because you've got to say in front of your
We've
peer.
all bought into that goal, and it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, did everyone do what they needed to do? Why are we not hitting it?
There's an episode.
That's very tactical, that one.
That was a good one, yeah. No, brilliant. Well, it's good to see an insight into some of the work you get involved in. Clearly, this is your bread and butter, isn't it, what you're doing with the operations team? So,
yeah, I just love getting people motivated. There's a Dalai Lama quote. I keep dropping quotes in, and he says, there's no point in stressing about a problem, because if you can solve it, solve it. And if you can't solve it, make peace with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to look at with teams. You know, often you'll find why the team's not performing the way that they need to. I'm like, okay, well, there's a solution to this. Well, what is that solution? Let's find it. And if the solution is some of the people in the team aren't the right people for the team, well, then that's a decision that we have to make. But often it's just, are we getting them aligned psychologically to the goal?
I guess that's a bit like that serenity prayer, isn't it? Have the courage to fix the problems you can, the serenity to accept the ones you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, one day I want to remember that off by heart.
I had to think of it while you were talking about it.
You had it. You got it to within, good. I think that's it to the point.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Mike. Another very enjoyable episode. Thank you very much, and hopefully food for thought for all those listening.
Thanks for having me on again. It's been a pleasure.
Not at all. Good to have you back. And thank you for listening to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow. Every week we try and come up with something interesting, new, and as we can show this week, a little bit different, just to provoke your thoughts. And if you think someone else you know might have appreciated listening to this, then let them know about it. Tell them that it's on Spotify or Apple, or just send them a link, or tell them to go and search SME Growth Podcast. And in the meantime, good luck with your business.